afternoon. Julian Assange, my partner, is fighting extradition to the US. The US is seeking to punish him over the publications by WikiLeaks over 10 years ago of the US State Department cables, the Guantanamo Bay detainee assessment briefs, the collateral murder publication of the Rules of Engagement, and the Afghan and Iraq war logs. And what did those publications reveal? I'll get to that, but they revealed a lot of things. They revealed crimes of the highest order. They revealed torture and rendition, targeted assassinations. They revealed evidence of drone strikes, war crimes, and they also revealed the subversion of the investigations into those crimes. Now, Julian, who has spoken at this symposium other years, is perhaps, and few would dispute this, the single greatest contributor to collective intelligence over the past 10 years. He's published information that investigative journalists have been mining and continue to mine. Many of you are perhaps sources, but most of you are most definitely using WikiLeaks material for your investigations. He also published information that historians and academics have been using in order to set the record straight. And he's published things that lawyers and victims have been able to use to seek redress. One such person is Khalid al-Masri, a German citizen who, in a case of mistaken identity, was abducted. He was renditioned and he was tortured at a CIA black site in Afghanistan. Now, when the CIA realized it was a case of mistaken identity, it then dumped him in Albania, a country to which he had no ties, on a dirt road. And so Khalid al-Masri, the German citizen, went to the United States and tried to seek redress, but he was blocked from doing so due to state secrets privilege. He then went to the European Court of Human Rights, but he had a new tool. By then, WikiLeaks had published the State Department cables, and there he was able to use as evidence the rendition, the fact that European countries were cooperating with the US in violating international law, allowing them to abduct and torture European citizens. And he won that case at the European Court. And after that, al-Nashiri, another rendition victim, was able to win his case using Khalid al-Masri's case as precedent and the evidence within it. Now, al-Nashiri was famously tortured in Thailand at a black site, a CIA black site in Thailand. And there was in fact evidence of his torture. There were videotapes of his torture. But those videotapes were destroyed, and they were destroyed on the watch of Gina Haspel, who was in charge of that black site, and who, of course, now is the CIA director. There are other cases of victims who have managed to seek redress, who have been freed from prison, in fact. The case of Roshan Jamal in Madrid. State Department cables showed that Spanish authorities were fully aware that he was an innocent man and he was in prison. But he was only able to be released after WikiLeaks published the cables. And in fact, as he was released from prison, Roshan Jamal held the cable that released him high up above his head. Now, the justice system doesn't always deliver justice. Sometimes it does deliver it, but too late. In the meantime, what we need to do is feed collective intelligence. I see at this conference another speaker is Hatice, Jamal Khashoggi's widow. Hatice Cengiz, Jamal Khashoggi's widow, who is bravely seeking accountability for the murder of her husband, the impunity of his murder. Now, the leader of the kill team, Mutrab, he was actually in WikiLeaks material. He appeared in correspondence in WikiLeaks 2014 publication of Hacking Team. It turns out that he was being trained by an Italian private security firm into conducting cyber operations, possibly into spying on political opponents. There you see the connection between cyber operations and the silencing and assassination of political opponents. So given that we can't rely on existing accountability mechanisms, and we can't rely on the justice system delivering justice, we need to bring justice into the justice system, into those accountability mechanisms. And for that, we need to feed collective intelligence. That's why Julian's case is so dangerous, because with it, a new authoritarian standard is being erected in which the work that you do every single day of investigative journalism, of communicating with sources with the intention, perhaps, to publish, of receiving and possessing information, is being criminalized. And whether that new standard is here to stay remains to be seen. Julian's case sets a new standard not just in the US, where the Espionage Act is being used for the first time against a publisher, but also in the UK, because of the nature of the UK-US extradition treaty. In order to extradite Julian, the UK courts have to accept that the Official Secrets Act here operates in the same way that the Espionage Act is being used under the new interpretation of the Espionage Act for the first time against a publisher. Of course, there's the wording of the Official Secrets Act, which is very draconian, but it's never been put to the test. And so this serves as the test. This is the precedent that is being set, and there's a before and an after. And of course, it's not just the US and the UK, it's also other countries, other Commonwealth countries who, for example, look to the UK. Brazil, the Bolsonaro government, who has taken inspiration from the prosecution against Julian to then attempt to put Glenn Greenwald in jail. And so we face a very dangerous trend. Now, to conclude, I want to keep Julian's voice in the discussion. We have to keep him in the discussion. One of the first moves that the Ecuadorian government took when it was getting closer to the US administration was to gag Julian. They did that already in March 2018, over a whole year before he was abducted, taken from the embassy, and his legal status as a protected person stripped away. He was gagged in 2018, in March 2018, and this talk, which I've selected, talks about the role that WikiLeaks has played over the past 13 years. And it serves as a mirror to show us where we are and what we need to do to reverse this. Thank you.
Back in 2007, when I launched WikiLeaks, I don't know if people can bring their minds back to the cultural dynamics on the internet at that time. It was, in some sense, far more controlling space than it is now. In other senses, far more open, because there weren't, the big players didn't dominate it as much as they do now. But the fight as to whether a WikiLeaks was culturally acceptable hadn't been had yet. And through succeeding in that fight and defending the organization, we became, in a very unusual way, part of the status quo. Not of the status quo of establishments, obviously. Many establishments are opposed to us because public secrets, and all establishments are in some sense hypocritical and rely on keeping a different interior world to an exterior presentation. But WikiLeaks became a culturally established, such that there would be a tremor sent through the broader internet culture, which is now the broader Western culture, if WikiLeaks were to disappear. And that's a very difficult role to be in. What would it mean? It would mean that essentially the envelope for publishers and freedom of speech and the rights of citizens versus institutions and establishments would suddenly contract. So I personally and WikiLeaks are partly in the business of keeping the envelope wide, being that avant-garde where we're constantly crashing up against icebergs, constantly, trying to smash through the ice, or at the very least maintain position, so that behind us there is a widened cultural space for liberty, broadly speaking.